Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and we just had Great American Bash for NXT this weekend. And honestly, they just rock the world. Like I haven't seen Evolution yet, of as least recording this, but I think this is definitely the best WWE show so far. I mean, blew out Saturday main event easily, and honestly, I kind of enjoyed it on par with AEW's All In, just because this match. I mean, I'm more into WWE anyways, but the matches here just felt all very like cohesive. Like they didn't feel like there was stuff that was just so out there terrible or so bad or so good that they didn't fit with it because everything else was just mid. It was just like all of them were like banger after banger after banger, depending on what type of wrestling and stuff you wanted. So let's jump into it. So Javon Evans versus Jasper Troy. Jasper Troy, the LFG winner, getting his first opportunity here in a PLE. He's already had a title match. Like, this is great. He went out there and was that monster, but Javon Evans doing his bounciness all over the place. Obviously, I think if you put like their individual performances, I definitely think Javon Evans could be an S tier thing here, and Jasper Troy would probably be about a B. So I think all together, this would be a solid A match. It was a great way to start off the show. It just kind of gave a good feel because like Great American Bash and like it's been like this other years and like other PLEs. This definitely felt one of those PLEs that's filler to a certain extent. We're not gonna get a lot of changes. We got no title changes. We don't even have all the titles up for grabs. Only three title matches out of five. So I mean that's still pretty solid. But we knew I mean at least in my prediction I had none of them changing and exactly what happening. And this is also a very surprising one that I think I predicted it 100%. So it's predictable, but it was still a phenomenal showing. And yeah, that's what we got. So next up it was Sol Ruka versus Izzy Dame. Now I go back and forth on this one. If you gave Sol her performance, she had a few little slip ups, but I also kind of give her a little bit of a pass because she worked SmackDown, she worked this, like she's gonna work tomorrow on Sunday. Like that's a lot of work to be putting on a weekend for somebody who wrestles normally maybe once, twice, a week at least in the television side of things. So it makes it difficult, but I think she still did pretty good. I would say there's a few little slip ups that I definitely saw, but I think she recovered pretty veteran like, and it didn't seem like anything. I think most people were really excited to see this match, and I think she really showed off. The ending kind of felt a little awkward just because like it was like very fast, but I don't think it was necessarily a problem. But Sol Rooker retained. Izzy Dame herself, I think she's getting better. I mean, if you've seen matches from her like 1 year ago, at least a couple months ago, she was competent, but like definitely lacked some stuff. I think she definitely got into her own tonight, but it definitely wasn't exactly there compared to some of the other matches. I sadly have to put this in a B because I just feel like Soul's performance would definitely be A or S, but Izzy's maybe C, maybe B. She went out there, she did great, but it was just not up to par to who she was wrestling to. Probably, unfortunately, just kind of the mixture of skills and stuff, but a solid B. I mean, that's still a really good, title defense, really good match. So definitely nothing to be, upset about. Next up, we had Ethan Page versus Ricky Saints in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Now, sometimes some of these matches get kind of boring or anything, but man, this one really, I was on board watching all of it. It wasn't super long, which is kind of always kind of crazy. Because sometimes they're like 40 minutes long or like 30 minutes long, and you're just kind of like, I don't know, I get kind of bored with all of that because it's just a lot of walking around and barely punching, but they made everything count there. Then bumping into Jasper Troy back there and him getting like attacking Ricky Saints, I think was a nice little touch because he's like, trying to be that monster personality, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's just on site with anybody who wants to mess with him. I thought was all pretty good. But yeah, I put this S tier. This wasn't a phenomenal match. Like it was really fun. It's probably one of my favorite Falls Count Anywhere matches, especially of this year. I can't think of anything else, at least even speculation matches that I feel was better than this. This was great. This definitely deserves that S tier. Next up, we had the contract signing. Again, contract signings are a little bit difficult. I mean, they get attacked by the Dark State, so I guess it's something to further this feud of them three working together against the Dark State, and people still think the Dark State is being ran by Trick, which again is still a good storyline. Obviously, it's so kind of predictable at this point that like you wouldn't want it to happen, but the more they let it kind of simmer, it could still end up having a payoff. I don't really know how else it would really be. It would have to be somebody completely just crazy, but again, I don't really see anybody else really being revealed, and it would make sense other than Trick. So that part is completely separate. But I think it was a better contract signing than other ones instead of just ending them with a brawl. So I'll put it in a B. Never my favorite thing to do, but it still was cool that it was on the show. Next up, then we had Obafemi versus Iramara. This match cooked. I mean, they both had really good ring chemistry. There was a lot of times where you thought Iramara could win. He chose not to cheat and have honor, which was, you know, a nice babyface thing to do, and at least gives Obafemi or gave him respect afterwards in the back. I honestly feel like it was just a really good title defense. Obafemi always puts on the show. Like I would have to go back in all of the PLEs since he had the North American title, but I really don't think this man has had worse than a B match for me on like a PLE. I think he's always been in there in the S and A tier things. And again, I'd put this up in A tier. It was just phenomenal. They went out there and did what they needed to do. I honestly think most of it I would come down to is I didn't really like the ref spot. Just kind of dumb. I hate when that happens because it's so predictable. The Briggs thing of him wanting to cheat and Iramara ended up being pretty nice because it kind of puts tension between them. And then afterwards in the back, we got later on that it looks like Briggs is going to challenge Obafemi or something. I think I'm cool with all that. That part was good. So I think there was a lot of good elements and a lot of different future storytelling. And I really like this match. Iramara needs a bigger push. I don't know where that entitles, but I do think that he should be maybe have some type of gold on his belt. Probably the North American title, maybe the tag team titles with Briggs, or maybe ends up being somebody else. But I kind of like what they're doing with him, and this match was good. It was kind of a smaller feud, kind of was all of a sudden, and I'm glad that it happened because it was led to a phenomenal match. Next up, we had the tag match. It was Fatal Influence versus Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace. I really was trying not to say Mariah May, so that's what took me a second. The match itself, I thought was pretty solid. Like they were obviously trying to get their footing. Fatal Influence, I think, did okay. I'm not always a big fan of some of their stuff. That's the thing with like JC Jane is like I don't really have a problem with her being champion. I just don't really like her wrestling and her character, you know, that she plays. I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just not my cup of tea. And so I'm constantly wanting her to drop this title, which she may or may not do by tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, I think this match was pretty good. It was a good debut match for Monroe. I'm glad that they picked up the victory. She pinned the champion, so that gives her an opportunity to maybe be next if Jordan Grace doesn't get the job done. Jasmine Nix tried to do some stuff, and Slam Povovich came down and took her out, which was a nice touch to even out the odds. And I think it was a pretty solid showing as your first match. I think I would put this in B. I think that if somebody wanted to rate it a little bit higher, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I just felt like it kind of lacked in the tag department of it being like a really good match compared to what was on this show. Sometimes that happens, so it's just kind of the show's fault. The show was so high, volume that like it kind of there was no way that we could have got a thrilling ending without it being also pedal to the metal. But overall, I'd say this is a nice A PLE. I wouldn't have it any lower because obviously the two B matches I think are still phenomenal matches that like you should watch if you haven't watched them, especially the Solrica match. So if yeah, that's what I would at least suggest. I think overall the PLE did pretty good. Like I said, it's way better than Saturday main event, and I liked it just as much as I liked All In. So I think that's still a really good sign. So all of that just equates to really good stuff. But if you guys like these type of content, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.